So welcome to our webinar. We're going to go ahead and get started. We have a bunch of folks with us already. Let me see. Who's here? There we go. Okay, so this webinar is Motivate and Empower Globally Competitive Teams of Content Professionals. This is a webinar about managing technical writers and other technical communicators. If this is not the webinar you expected or signed up for, then we're happy to have you anyway. And if it is, we're going to go ahead and get started. So my name is Barry Safe. I've been in technical documentation for about 32 years, mostly in the United States, but then I moved to the Philippines about 5 years ago, and I founded a company here, Safe Solutions, which provides outsourced technical writing to some very large companies in Japan and the United States, and I love acronyms, as you'll see when we go through this this webinar. So first, here's our agenda. We're going to take a look at who we are together here, because we're going to try and make this an interactive discussion. We'll talk about management as a sacred trust. We'll talk about the 5 keys to success in management, the 6 keys to empowering your staff. We'll focus there on integrity. We'll talk about motivation and about managing cross-cultural teams. And then throughout, we're going to talk about your challenges. And in the middle, we're going to discuss a particular case study about managing technical writers. At the end, we're going to share with you a discount code for LavaCon Dublin, where I'll be speaking on this topic, and Safe Solutions will be exhibiting. Okay, so let's just see where we're at. So I'm in Tagaytay City, Philippines, and if you can share your country and city.
Barry, by chat window, you mean the type question here window?
Yes, well, I think there may be a chat window and a question window. Let's see. Oh, we have someone in San Diego, California, someone in Fairfield, California, someone in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Orlando, Florida, Melbourne, Florida, Nizhny Novgorod, Russia, Bainbridge Island, Washington, USA. Okay, well, that's a good good selection there. Here we go. So I'm going to ask, we're going to talk about what your interests and experiences are in managing technical writers. So what you can do is type yes or no for each of these. So if you've managed a team of writers, or you are managing one now, you can answer yes. Let's see. Oh, we got somebody in Heston, Kansas. We have a yes for about a month. We have another yes. A lot of yeses there. Okay. And then the next question, oh, we have yes, but more graphic arts and apps team. Okay. Next question is, how about leading a team without management authority? I know that's a common thing in technical writing. We have 1, 2, 3 yeses. No, okay. All right, we got some yeses there. How about managing outsourced or offshore writers? Yes, no, yes, yes, yes. Okay. Okay. About half of us, I think, have experience with that. How about hiring writers? Have you ever hired technical writers? We got yes, yes, no, yes. Very good. Okay, another yes. How about firing? Have you ever fired a technical communicator? Yes and yes, no, 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 nope. Laid off. Okay, that's similar to firing, yeah. Okay, so let's move on to management. Have you ever experienced working for someone you would call a good manager? Yes, yes, yes. All right, we got, I think, 4 yes, 5 yeses, 6 yeses. Very good. Very good. Well, that's great. That's good that that most of you have had that experience. And then, have you ever experienced working for someone you would call a not so good manager, or maybe you'd use more extreme terms? Yes. Uh, Definitely. Absolutely. Yes. Uh, Mostly in the higher levels of management. Okay, good. Um, Anything else? You can speak up or type. All right. Well, that's good. We have a broader range of experience here. Let's move on. Here we go. So management is a sacred trust. I don't think any of us went into management to do any of the things on this slide. Hopefully you can see that slide, to destroy morale. But managers do have a lot of power over people in their groups and all kinds of power, which it's important to be aware of and responsible for. So here we go. Now, on the positive side, managers really are in a position where they can make a difference in many different ways. And they can impact the people and the enterprise and the work and the customers, and that can all be very positive. In fact, in some cases, it can be extremely positive. You can even create miracles. So I have great respect for managers and for the art and practice of management. Okay, here we go. Okay, so keys to management success, carved. So we have 5 elements here, and the first one is caring. So if you think about a mother in an inner city, maybe she can't afford air conditioning, has to keep the windows open, the city is very loud. To sleep, she has to ignore those sounds, but when her baby cries, of course she wakes up. So that's the level of caring that a manager is. And we're going to talk more about caring in the next few slides. Access is also important. Your people need access to you. You need to be available to them, and your manager needs to be available to you, or else you and your team will suffer. Respect is also crucial. And on the last slide, we have some resources, and it's got a link to our blog where we post the balance infographic. So balance is, I told you I loved acronyms. Balance is another acronym I created for respect, and it includes those things there. And the one that I'll focus on here is to believe in people. So that's important, to authentically believe in people and let them know that you believe in them. Vision is crucial, and we'll talk about that a little later. And then expectations are important too, and we're going to talk more about that. So let's go to caring. So the fundamental way of being of a manager is caring. And there's 4 essential things a manager must care about: the results, the work that's produced, the process, the way that it gets produced, the people, which means the people doing the work as well as the customers, other stakeholders, and the enterprise itself. So it's a little bit about power. I think most of you are in the United States, where there in general seems to be an understanding about this, although there are still people who abuse the position of manager. I find in some other countries, particularly Philippines and India, people tell me there's a lot of managers who have a command and control, or even some people call it a master-slave view of management. So, yeah, so one person points out that we should differentiate between caring and micromanaging. Yes, micromanaging is very different than caring. How you manage is kind of an implementation thing, but caring is really about how you are being, not so much what you are doing. You choose how to express that caring in a way that's appropriate for the situation. Let's see. So a good manager is an enemy of bureaucracy, corruption, inertia. The rules are not the most important thing. The mission, the customers, the reason the rules were created, that's what you need to worry about and protect and take care of. Yes, so someone is telling us that in India their experience is master-slave. I've heard that from others about India. And moving on, oops, here we go. So if you have thought about management in terms of caring before, go ahead and type yes. I just want to see how many of you have already thought of this, and it's not a new idea to you. We have 1 yes, 2 yeses, 3 yeses. That's good. That's good. 4 yeses. Okay, good. Okay, we're going to move on here. So, access. Have you ever had difficulties or stress at work because your manager had no time for you? Yes or no to that one? We got 2 yeses. Definitely yes, absolutely yes, kind of yes. Yeah, that's it's very popular. It's right. So someone says or no interest. So caring and access are both essential. And then respect. We're going to talk about respect. So as a manager, it is unacceptable to accuse someone in front of others. So this thing about accusing is particularly important in Asian cultures, certainly here in the Philippines. And here people are very sensitive to being accused, and it's something that makes them extremely uncomfortable. And even if you don't think you're accusing them, if they think that they're being accused, then you need to take responsibility for that perception, because it really makes things difficult and unnecessarily so. And then the whole thing about raising your voice. Now, there's different levels to this. It's clearly inappropriate to become extremely angry and abusive and vulgar with your staff or with anyone as a manager. And it's important as a manager to manage your emotions, to have emotions instead of the emotions having you and controlling you. So you want to learn to respond creatively to situations instead of reacting. And sometimes that means waiting to deal with the situation, doing something else not related to work so you can cool down and then deal with the situation powerfully. Passion is great and emotion can be helpful, but not when you're not in control. So it's also important to be respectful of yourself. And the first thing I put there is expand the realm of what you consider yourself responsible for. So the responsibility is a choice. Nobody can make you responsible. But the more that you choose to be responsible for, the more impact you have on how things turn out. And that applies to your life as well as whatever you're managing and whoever you're managing. So you really can respect yourself more by expanding your own responsibility for your life and everything in it. But it's important also then, don't accept being treated with less than full respect. And that might be from your staff, that might be from your manager, or from an executive. There really is no excuse for a lack of civility and for abusing or humiliating people in the workplace. And if you have that kind of situation, you have to really take it seriously and figure out what to do about it. Often, I'm not saying you should always deal with it a certain way. But in terms of respecting yourself, you need to give yourself a break, allow yourself to have mistakes. Mistakes are crucial. That's really how you learn. And there's a link there to the balance infographics on respect. So vision is the next element of CARVE. Without vision, management is damaging. Because if you don't, if people are just coming to work every day just to put in their hours and collect their pay, and there's no excitement in what they're doing, they just do what they're told, they're not going to be at their best. And that's why I say without vision, management is damaging. If all management is supervision and a master-slave kind of thing, it is damaging to the enterprise, to the people, to the customers. The way to inspire others is to be inspired yourself. And you can keep the mission, the vision, the values, the organization alive. By one way to do that is making sure people understand how their work forwards the whole. Make sure they understand the goals of the enterprise, of the group, and how they fit into that. So I'm interested, most organizations have a mission or a vision or both. And I'm not going to ask you to say what the mission or vision is of your organization, but if you could say that, if you're clear on the mission or vision, then type yes. And if you're not quite clear, type no. So we got 2 yeses. We got a no, we got no, we got, okay, we got some other responses. It's unclear to many people. Yeah, that's common. It's getting better. They're working on it. That's good. Very good. Yeah, so I think it's crucial. Our company is run based on our vision and particularly in our mission, but particularly based on our values. We have a set of 9 corporate values which you can find on our site in the About section, and we work with staff on that continually. And then the E in CARB is expect excellence. Some of you may have heard of Dr. Wayne Dyer, who died a couple of years ago, I think, and he is known for this idea that we create what we expect, and there's tremendous amount of studies and research that have shown this. The typical example is a teacher, and the teacher who, say there's 2 teachers and they're both in the inner city with challenging situation, but the teacher who has high expectations of her students perform better on tests and do better on grades and everything than the teacher who does not have high expectations. So expectations are extremely powerful, and you want to become as aware as you can of your expectations and choose them wisely. So what, in your experience, is the most difficult management issue? And I'd love it if some of you could actually speak up and share with us, but you also can type in the window. Prioritization and time management. Yeah, so that's one of those things that as managers we need to model for our team, because it's an issue for everyone on the team. And one of the things that as a manager it's important to do is give people priorities. When one of your staff has too much to do, they should be able to come to you and say, tell me which is more important of these, and you can rank their tasks in priority. Let's see, we got a bunch more feedback here. Oh my, let's see. Apathetic workers, right? So we're going to talk about motivation a little later, but that may have to do with vision, may have to do with motivation. Standards often a problem, even though it's technical in nature in the management group. If there's no consensus on standards. That's important, yes. You need to have a consensus, and employees are not interested in personal improvement. Yeah, it's interesting. There's a book I've been reading called Hiring for Attitude, and this book is based on extensive studies of the first 18 months of about 20,000 people in all different kinds of jobs and different companies. And what they found, and they looked at people who didn't work out in the first 18 months. Either they got fired, they quit, or they were written up, put on a performance plan. And they looked at the reasons why it happened. In only 11% of those, like 20-some thousand cases, was it a skills mismatch. It was that the people didn't have the proper skills, adequate skills for the task. 89% were attitude issues. And yet most hiring focuses on skills, not on attitude. And the #1 attitude issue was not being coachable. So if you have employees that are not interested in improvement, it could be that they're not the right employees. But again, I wouldn't quickly come to that conclusion. It can also, that can be something that you can affect by modeling, right? So if you demonstrate to your staff your own interest in personal improvement, improving yourself as a manager and as a person, sometimes that can rub off on some of them. People challenging the company brand and style standards. So, you know, sometimes, and this is, I've had the experience where, as a technical writer, sometimes the issues around standards and style really revolved around respect, because it's important to distinguish between when people are just, you know, trying to have their own way and they want all the styles to be the way they like it, the way they're used to it, and when they really have significant issues that do affect the customers that they're trying to raise. I was in a situation once where we had a standard that required that in some cases we bold words like, you know, like the name of a button would be bolded in a procedure, in a step, but not if it was mentioned elsewhere. And it resulted in inconsistent doc, and we actually had customer complaints about it. And so I challenged this. I continually challenged this standard because I felt it really didn't work for our customers. And initially, what I found is that a lot of the editors and managers felt that anyone challenging the standards is just causing problems. Well, we've actually got it resolved, but I had to point out that, hey, this is an issue of respect. And that finally kind of broke the logjam. So finding the line between I should take care of this myself and delegating, right? Especially if you're very resource constrained. Yeah, so you hire senior tech writer, you should hire, measurement level. Someone skating toward retirement, managing highly variable projects on a variety of products. Yeah. So I'm thinking I'm not going to address all of these now, but let me pick a couple here. Let's see. So the whole thing about being resource constrained and figuring out what you as a manager should do and what you should delegate, it's hard to give general advice on that. It really depends on your situation, how many team members you have, what the demands on your time are. You know, can you really add value by doing certain things? There's a lot to consider there. But one of the things with regard to resources is, and again, this is I'll clearly admit my bias here. You know, I own an outsourcing company, but sometimes outsourcing can really help with that, or even if, or hiring some lower level staff, because often you've got a team of, you know, all pretty senior people, and they're doing a lot of sort of grunt work that they're not excited about. And when you either bring outsourcing in or you bring in one or two junior people, that can free up the senior people to do the stuff they're excited about and really improve morale for everyone. So let's move on now and talk about our case study. So, you know, we sent out this handout, which you also should be able to access online there, but the handout contains this case study. So here's the background. This actually is a true situation that I was personally involved in. You know, we're working with a new engineering group, and nobody told us that they're using Agile. Everyone else that we've worked with used Waterfall. And, you know, actually the documentation team lead and the engineering manager went over the schedule for the doc in the beginning of the project, and it was all approved. But then in the middle, the engineering team lead says, where's the doc? Because he's expecting it and his manager forgot about this. So what do you do in that situation? Does anyone have some ideas to offer up? Okay, I'm sorry that some of you have been muted, and I just figured out how to unmute you. So I'm unmuting everyone, and if you want to go ahead and mute yourself, that's fine if you have some noise locally. But feel free to speak up about the case study or any questions you have. Let's see. So does anyone have any ideas about this case study, or have you experienced something like this?
Barry, this is Mike.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, my sense is that in a case like this, it's really a collision between engineering and the Tech Club's team, and there's been a deep misunderstanding. And this really requires the leadership and the intervention of the publications team's management. They probably have to sit down manager to manager between the engineering group and the Tech Clubs group and decide what kind of schedule they can get back on getting the documentation at the right time with. It's not necessarily something that a lower level team manager would solve.
Right. Well, that's one approach. Oh, and then we've got some. Let's see. Someone else. I would say discuss whether Confluence and similar is available to access stories and published document review. The engineering team lead would need to assign priorities and things that may have been committed to within 4 weeks would be delayed. It's a negotiation. So yeah, no, those are all good suggestions. And in fact, in the situation, I was the doc team lead, and I wanted to, rather than, I felt that I had a good relationship with the engineering team lead, and it'd be better for the two of us to work it out and bring the solution to our manager and our managers. And basically, as the doc team, we had some flexibility. We were able to adjust our schedule, and they adjusted a little bit, but we adjusted a lot more. And we made sure that I made sure that everyone understood what was happening and why it had happened, and we got back on track. So, but there's a variety of ways it can be handled. It really takes communication. It takes honest and open communication to resolve a situation like that. And it takes good relationships with your peers, with other groups, with other managers. Okay.
I'd be interested to hear if anybody else on the webinar here has, as you say, experienced a big change of direction in their project.
Does anyone have that an experience like that? Not necessarily with Agile, but experiencing a big change of direction in the middle of a project? Someone says often, big change. Yes, so people have been through that. I think it happens all the time. It's hard not to experience that. So let's move on and talk about staff empowerment. Maybe we can go. But let's go on and talk about Thrive. So training, there's all kinds of training. Most of this I'm not going to go through in detail, but we're going to talk about integrity. Here we go. Okay. So so integrity is really important for managers. And it says there about a deep respect for the power of your own words, actions, and way of being, and particularly your own word, your own words. So, when you make a promise, and really respecting the fact that you said something and now you want to follow through on it. The power of your word can really enable you to produce miracles. When you set a goal, and the best example I have of this is many years ago, about 25 years ago, I volunteered full-time for an organization called the Hunger Project, which is about the sustainable end of hunger for all humanity. And it's still an organization I support. It's called The Hunger Project. Their site is thp.org. But I was a volunteer fundraiser, and I set very high goals. I had a team that had only produced about $5,000 a month or something like that. in fundraising, and I set a goal of $50,000, and that month we achieved 25, which is 5 times what we'd ever done. And over time, I learned to be able to set goals, like that, very high goals, and actually meet them, because I really paid attention to the power of my word. So it talks about that there, about promises and about modeling the behavior that you want to develop. That's all what integrity is. It's really about, I find as a manager, I've noticed that it's very easy for me to fall into the trap of blaming others for my mistakes. And so I always try to examine how I might be the source of the problem. And I try to start out a conversation with curiosity. Start by trying to learn what happened instead of by accusing someone. And it's important to learn from mistakes and also learn from successes. So yeah, there's a bunch more there about integrity. And so we're going to move on and talk about motivation. So some of you asked about this. That, one thing about motivation is that everybody has different things that motivate them. And it's really useful to get to know your staff and learn what motivates them. If they're bored, well, what interests them? Well, these are 4 things that are essential for motivation. People need to have successes, and they can be little successes, but that will really help. Learning, hopefully learning, the opportunity to learn is a motivation for everyone on your staff. Because if you're not motivated by learning, then maybe you shouldn't be a technical writer, because that's really the largest part of the job. People need accurate and frequent feedback. For many people, they're not motivated because they get no feedback. They don't know if their work is appreciated. They don't know if they're doing it well, and it's very demotivating. And people need praise. People need a lot more praise. One study said people need 5 times as much praise as constructive criticism to achieve their optimal performance. So all of these elements are very important for motivation. So we're going to move on to managing cross-cultural teams. I got a few slides on this, and then we're going to go to more questions and discussion. So I found these 3 things on the first 2 slides are really crucial for managing cross-cultural teams. So number 1, having a mix of cultures in one location, which could mean you've got 10 people of one culture and 1 of another. So, for example, in Safe Solutions, I'm an American. I'm an American expat. I moved to the Philippines 6 years ago. I started this company. And when I started, it was all Filipinos except for me. But the fact that I was a part of the company made a tremendous difference in our ability to serve customers in the United States or in Japan, in other countries. It really makes a huge difference. And it's something that you want to look for. How can I create that in this situation? Sometimes, occasional travel can create that. Number 2, ensure editing, quality control, and inclusion. So first of all, if you have writers that for whom English is not their native language, editing becomes absolutely crucial. And often it's kind of a schizophrenic thing. I've seen situations where the writers, say, on the teams in the United States that they may have editing or not, but they have access to all of the wikis, the Confluence, the bug system, and the meetings and the conference calls and the team email lists. And then the writers that are overseas have none of that. And of course, they're not going to do very well. So inclusion is also crucial. And as you can see, this has been crucial to our success. And then the third thing is really a large area of learning how to work with other cultures, learning about other cultures, learning to have a greater awareness of your culture. Every culture has strengths and weaknesses, and learning about those is very important. And how do people in this culture communicate and how does that differ from how you communicate? You know, here in the Philippines, and I think in some other Asian cultures, when someone says yes, it may not mean the same thing as it means in the U.S. Yes often means, yes, I heard you and I respect you, but I don't understand a thing that you said. So particularly in cultures where people are very reluctant or unwilling to say no, right? If somebody can't say no, then their yes probably has a variety of different meanings. So the key to this is to get to know people well, people in other cultures that you're working with, and to really expand your awareness. So as we've talked about, management entails awesome responsibility, awesome opportunity. Both are magnified by a mixture of cultures. So if you're not aware, you can do more damage when you've got a mix of cultures. But if you are aware, you can really make a big difference for people and for the enterprise. And this example about, this is something that I've had to learn here in the Philippines is, I'm an authority figure. I'm white. People will defer to me, and people are reluctant to disagree with me, to object to anything I say, and even to answer questions sometimes. It's something I work with my staff on continually, to learn to speak up, to ask questions, to ask for help, and to really be forthcoming with their questions, with their objections, with their feelings. And anger is something that Filipinos and I think other Asians as well don't deal with well. That's something I've had to learn here. Anger just doesn't work. And vulgarity really doesn't work. It's common in some cultures, but here in the Philippines, it's a very kind of conservative society. It's overwhelmingly Catholic, and vulgarity really doesn't work for people. So let's see. It's very important to give up the idea that your culture is better. That will doom whatever difference you can make with people. Let's see. We do have some feedback here. One way to learn and practice new forms of communication is to pay attention to and copy the way other people communicate. For example, emails from Indian colleagues typically complete, respectful, finish with a sign-off such as regards. Yeah, that's interesting about India. The Philippines, I notice, yes, people, their emails and their conversations will always start with a greeting like good afternoon, good evening, good morning, and will always end with, in the Philippines, the emails almost always end with an exclamation point. People are just, excited to communicate and be in communication. So I try to match that. Okay, so I'm interested in knowing what management challenge you're facing now, and I'm available to talk privately with people about that. If you type a sentence in the chat window with what your management challenge is, I promise to contact everyone who does that, and we'll set up a private conversation and see if there's something I can help you with. Let's see. So, yes. We have one more piece of feedback. Oh, Marion says, I end emails with in partnership. Yeah. So I'm going to unmute everyone and see if anyone wants to share about their challenge, or, I see. This is how I unmute people. Here we go. So does anyone want to share anything about the challenge that you're facing?
Can you hear me?
Please speak up. I can almost hear.
Yeah. This is Vadim from Russia.
Hello, Vadim.
Hi. I have a case when a person on my team is simply reluctant to share what motivates her. you know. And she believes that's something really personal. She would not like to share.
Yes.
So I couldn't, bring it home to her that it's just not something personal. It's just for me to be a better manager to her. But she still is reluctant. Any ideas on how to get it done?
Hmm. So she's a very private person.
It looks like this, but maybe that's part of her culture.
Yeah. And is she a different culture from you?
Yeah,
Yeah. What is her culture?
German.
Say again?
German.
Oh, German. I see. Ah, okay. Uh, Interesting. So, and have you tried opening up to her and, sharing in a private meeting some of what motivates you and what's important to you?
Mm, not quite.
Because that may help. I mean, in my experience, people are more willing to open up to me when I open up to them, and it may take more than one try doing that. It may not be something that can change quickly, but over time, that may help to develop a more open or closer relationship where she'd feel more comfortable.
Hmm. I
So,
see. But generally, I'm pretty open and sharing my concerns, my visions always. But
yeah,
yeah, maybe should have, make it an emphasis on this.
right, right. Yeah, and it may help also to just accept that for now she's not going to share that and work around it because
Hmm.
sometimes you give the person space to be how they are, they are become more able to change. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but um, she's been like that for quite a while
Uh-huh.
already. I don't see
Yeah.
really changing.
And is it causing a problem and is it causing a problem in the work that she's like that?
No, I don't think so, but it's causing problem with my perception. I feel that I'm not trusted enough as a
Yes.
manager.
Yes. Right. Yeah, yeah, it's difficult for some people to trust. It may be based on her life experience and things she's not able or willing to share. Yeah. Um, but I think the important thing is not to take it as a reflection on you. I mean, it sounds like you're trying to work with her and support her. And, it doesn't really say anything about you. It's her issue.
Hmm.
Yeah. Uh,
Okay, thank you.
sure. Yeah, a couple other people had suggestions. They say maybe she's naturally an introvert and some people will never open, which that's from Rob. Thank you. So, well, thank you, Betty. Someone else want to share their challenge or have a question they want to ask? We got a few more minutes. I do have a few more slides, but we could take one or two more questions. We've got 11 of us on the line here together. So yes, you can feel free to type your questions and I'll respond. I'll contact you and we'll discuss it later. You can also send me email. Let's see. So we have some resources here. And by the way, you all will be getting the presentation as well as the recording of this webinar. And all of these resources you can find by going to our site, safesolutions.com, and clicking on blog at the top. And these are all in the blog area. And here's the contact info. I'm going to go back to this screen in a minute. Yeah, so let me I'm going to move on. So we have a bonus slide here about creativity in the face of stress. So, stress is important and how each person is different in what works for them to de-stress and to avoid stress and deal with stress. So if you can figure that out about yourself and then also work with your team and try and help each person discover what works for them to de-stress. And so, culture, there's really two ways we can use the word culture. There are cultures like Filipino culture, American culture, German culture, but then also each organization has a culture. And so you want to create and protect a healthy culture in your organization. And culture is really about the details, every moment, every action, interaction. And so we have the 4 C's of a successful manager. And there used to be 3 C's, but thanks to Mike McGraw, who's on the phone with us, he added one, curiosity, which I think is very important. Curiosity, caring, competence, and creativity. So I'm going to move, let's see. Let's see. Oh, and here is your discount code for LavaCon Dublin. So LavaCon is a great conference for doc managers and content strategists. And it's only been in the United States until now. This year they're doing one in Europe in June and one in the United States in October. Safe Solutions will be exhibiting at both of those. I'll be speaking at the LavaCon Dublin conference in June. And I'll be speaking on this topic, managing technical writers. And then Mike and I have a proposal in for the October LavaCon to do a 4-hour workshop for managers and technical writers. So you can look forward to that as well. So I'm going to go back to, here we go. Oh, so that code is SAIFF, S-A-I-F-F. When you register for LavaCon, if you use that code, you save 55 euros. And here we go. So, yeah, and it gives you dates here. We will be, you can meet us in person, LavaCon Dublin. It's actually June 5th to 8th. And then User Assistance Europe in Budapest, June 9th and 10th, LavaCon Las Vegas. We'll be doing more webinars. We'll be sure to inform you about those. We may do some more conferences this year, and you can participate in our blog. Our most popular blog post is the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Technical Writers, which is here. You can find that on our blog. And I'm now working on the Advanced 7 Habits. And in fact, in July, I'm going to be doing a webinar for STC. They asked me to do a webinar on the 14 habits, the 7 habits plus the Advanced 7 habits. So that has been very interesting to a lot of people, the 7 habits. So, let's see. So does anyone else have a question, a comment they want to make before we close out the webinar? We're actually going to finish a few minutes early. Who would like to ask something or share something with us? I think you're all unmuted.
I have a comment, Barry.
Sure. Yeah, Mike.
A couple of things have occurred to me recently for technical writing groups. One was an interesting comment on the LinkedIn forum in which somebody, I think it was Technical Writing Ireland, pointed out that we're all becoming very unique in terms of our tool sets, not only as technical writers, but also just as individuals in society. And one of the challenges for technical writing as a field is how to provide people with enough technical information about the devices they've got. A lot of stuff out there, and it's just kind of a general comment, not so much about management. But on the management side, another thing occurred to me is that I'm finding that there are a tremendous number of conversations going on at places like LinkedIn or in webinars like this or in many other webinars in which we're all discussing the same kinds of things about content strategy, content management, as well as issues of management and other questions more toward STC. And I would like to really consider how it's possible for an organization, maybe a TechPub's unit in a company or an organization like STC, to pull in those conversations and include them in our own discussions because they have local ramifications. There's a lot of information being shared out there, and oftentimes we tend to just start over with the same conversation. So No solutions there, but just a couple of situations that I thought were interesting and relevant to tech writing.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting, the question you raised about, I would call that a question about organizational learning, right? Because people in the organization are learning all kinds of things from all different resources, both within and outside the organization. And how does the organization learn, and how do we maximize the progress of the organization learning? And, you know, I mean, one idea off the top of my head for that is to really encourage people in the organization to blog, to do internal blogs, even, or they don't have to be strictly internal, but, you know, so you go to a course, a conference, you learn a lot, you come back, and instead of just maybe doing a presentation for your team, you do a blog that, you know, you write a blog post that anyone in the company can access and can also learn from. Because, you know, as writers, you know, we know that when you actually write something, it kind of prompts you to think about it more and to, you know, kind of get the most out of what you've learned, and to present it in a way that it's accessible and available to others. So maybe that's something that we can contribute to organizations, is to create forums, you know, and you know, Confluences and other platforms are great for this, for sharing that kind of information.
I like that. Good idea.
Yeah. So thank you, Mike. So I think we have time for one more question. We got a couple comments here. Thank you for your time. Great webinar. Thanks a lot. I want to thank all of you for participating and joining us. I'd love to talk with you more about it. And of course, you know, Safe Solutions provides both outsourced technical writing services and consulting on documentation management, managing technical writers, as well as content strategy, and managing outsourcing. So we're happy to help. We're happy to answer questions, to talk with you and work through issues. And basically, you know, we like to provide information and help, and it's most of it is available for free. So thanks very much, and please look for our emails about future webinars. I look forward to speaking with you in the future and perhaps meeting some of you. Have a great day.
Barry, thanks so much for staying up so late to talk with us.
It's only 2 a.m. here. You're welcome. My pleasure.